A week after we moved into our new house, we received a call from the previous owner. Katinka, I accidentally left the camera on. It's still recording on my account. I just opened the recording and saw what your husband, his mother, and the girlfriend are doing while you're gone. You need to come alone urgently. Don't tell your husband anything. And before we continue, please tell me what country you're from and how old you are. Enjoy listening." Quote. Katya didn't believe for a long time that she would succeed. The house seemed like something from another life. Not about her and Andrei, not about their usual two-room apartment with thin walls and the eternal smell of someone else's food in the entryway. And then everything came together at once. The bank approved the mortgage. Katya sold her grandmother's one-room apartment, added what she had saved over many years, and one day she found herself with the keys to a neat house on Tikaya Street. The house wasn't a palace, just ordinary, warm, with a small plot of land and an old apple tree by the fence, but it was hers. Katya walked through the rooms, she touched the windowsills and caught herself smiling. She wanted to put the kettle on in the new kitchen, hang the curtains, unpack the boxes, and finally stop living for later. Andrei was the loudest in his joy, at least, that's what it seemed like. He fussed around with a tape measure, measuring the walls, and promised that he would finish everything himself. He would fix the porch, reupholster the sofa, make shelves in the pantry. The words sounded beautiful, but Katya had already gotten used to Andrei ending many things with promises. From the very first week in the house, it became clear. Along with the move, other people moved in too. Not by paperwork, of course, but out of habit. Nina Petrovna, her mother-in-law, came almost every day. First, under the guise of helping, "I brought you borscht. You're renovating here, you have no time." Then, as the owner, "This nightstand is in the way. Move it, the curtains are too dark, the house will be gloomy, you need a bed in the bedroom. Otherwise, there won't be any energy." Katya listened, nodded, sometimes softly replied that it was more convenient. But every time Nina Petrovna said this, she got on her nerves like a thin wire. With Olga Zalovka, it was both easier and more difficult. Olga smiled sweetly, but her eyes were always comparing. Furniture, tiles, appliances, dishes. She could easily say in front of Andrei, "Well, no matter, Katyusha, the main thing is we have a house." Nowadays, people live in trailers too. Quote, or sigh jokingly, "Your brother is lucky. His wife has money." She laughed first and waited for the others to join in. Katya tried not to react. She had a plan: to live through the first months quietly, pay off all the urgent payments, get used to the house. Then it would be possible to set boundaries without leading to war. After all, Andrei needed his family, she needed peace of mind. So, a compromise was possible. Only a compromise worked in one direction. One day, Katya came home from work early. The meeting was cancelled. As I was approaching the house, I saw Nina Petrovna's car at the gate. Voices could be heard in the yard. Katya entered quietly. Not because she wanted to eavesdrop, but because her hands were full of bags. In the kitchen, Nina Petrovna commanded with such confidence, as if she had lived there for many years. "Olka, put the kettle on. Andrei, you can show me later where you keep the documents at home. We need to tidy things up, otherwise Katerina has everything in folders. You won't find them later." Katya froze for a second, but then calmly put the bags on the table. "The documents are in my cabinet," she said, evenly, "in the closed one." Nina Petrovna smiled, as if Katya had said something funny. "Oh, come on, Katya, it's family. In the family, everything is shared. Andrei is my son. So, I can know where everything is too." Katya smiled back just as calmly. "In the family, there is general respect, and the documents should be where they belong." Andrei, as always, pretended not to hear, looked at his phone and muttered, "Let's not get nervous. Mom, Katya is right." "Well," Nina Petrovna snorted, but changed the subject. Katya thought that was it. Everything worked out. The next day, an unknown number called. Katya usually hung up on them, but something made her answer. "Ekaterina Sergeevna." The voice was male, elderly, with cautious politeness. "This is Sergei Ivanovich, the previous owner of the house. Sorry to bother you." Katya tensed. Her first thought was, is there really something wrong with the documents? Yes, hello, I'm listening. The man paused, as if choosing his words. Katya, I stupidly left something unturned. There is only one camera in the house. It still posts to my account. Today I opened the notification and saw what was happening at your house while you were away. I didn't want to look, honestly, it happened by accident. But after what I saw, I can't keep quiet. Katya felt a chill run down her spine. What camera? She asked quietly. And where? In the pantry, where the electrical panels and shelves I put for safety. I thought I turned off everything, but it turns out I didn't. There's a corner there, you can see part of the kitchen and the hallway. Katya, I saw your husband, his mother and sister. He exhaled. You need to come urgently. Better alone. And don't tell your husband anything. The word sounded strange. Better not to tell alone. It wasn't about the camera anymore, it was about danger. Katya forced herself not to ask unnecessary questions. I'm at work now, she said, although her throat was dry. Can you turn it off? I can. And I already turned it off, but the recording is still in the cloud. I can show you. You have to see for yourself. I don't like intrigue, Katya, but there's something there that you can't describe over the phone. Katya swallowed. Where are you now? I'm in the city. I can come to the house. Or you come to me, but better yet, to the house, you'll see everything there. And again. Forgive me, I wasn't peeking. I just realized that if I kept quiet, it would be worse. Katya hung up, sat for about 10 seconds, without moving, and only then got up. One thing was pounding in her head. Calm down, don't panic, don't show this to anyone. She wrote Andrei briefly. I'll be late today, I'm busy. It was true. An hour later, Katya was already driving up to the house. Sergei Ivanovich was standing at the gate in an old jacket and with the look of a man who doesn't know what to do with his hands. Sergei Ivanovich opened an app on his phone and held out the screen. I'll show you a piece. Then you decide for yourself. Katya nodded. The recording showed morning. The house was empty, bright. Then Andrei walked into the frame. Next came Nina Petrovna, followed by Olga. They closed the door to the kitchen. The first thing Olga did was plop down on a chair, like in a cafe. Well, Mom, shall we begin? She said. Nina Petrovna took a folder out of her bag. We begin, she replied. Listen carefully. There's little time. Katya has work until the evening, but you never know. Andrei scratched the back of his head. Mom, are you sure everything will work out like this? Don't ask stupid questions, Nina Petrovna snapped. I've been living here for years. The house is registered to Katya. It's bad, but it can be fixed. We need to make sure she signs the necessary things herself. Quote. Olga giggled. She will sign. She's kind and always tired. Tell her it's what needs to be done for the family, and she'll sign. Katya sat like stone, her fingers clenching involuntarily. What should I sign? Andrei asked. Nina Petrovna was leafing through the papers. A general power of attorney for you, so you can handle matters around the house. You'll say it's more convenient at the bank, with the mortgage, insurance, paperwork. She doesn't understand. She doesn't want to. You talk to her kindly. Then we'll file an application to declare the house jointly acquired and formalize the shares. It'll be easier from there. Olga perked up. And then we can sell it, if necessary, or take out a mortgage. Nina Petrovna looked up. Sell. That's later. First, we need to protect our son. Katya is cunning, she keeps quiet, but she has everything on paper. And paper is power. Andrei chuckled nervously. Katya is simple. You're blind, Nina Petrovna said calmly. She feeds you, bought you a house, and you think she did it for nothing? She has everything figured out, which means we need to figure it out too. Olga leaned closer. Mom, what if she refuses? Nina Petrovna answered as casually as if they were talking about jam. Then we'll do it differently. There are options. Let's say she's nervous, that she's acting strange. Andrei will confirm. Your friend, Olya, let her write. Katya is quiet, but she'll get scared and sign. Katya felt everything inside her turn over. Not because someone wanted the papers, but because it was said calmly, without anger, like a work plan. Sergei Ivanovich quietly said, "There's also something about the castle and the move." I didn't scroll any further. I'd had enough. Katya didn't answer. She was looking at the screen, but she couldn't see it anymore. One question was ringing in her head. Who was she living with? Sergei Ivanovich stood next to her, not imposing himself. Quote, "I can send you the recording," he said, "so you have proof." "That's more important than any words." Katya nodded. "Thank you." "I don't know what to say." Quote, "Don't say anything," he replied. "Just the main thing is to act calmly and not alone." Katya remembered these words. That same day, she did several things she had previously put off. First, she called the bank and clarified the mortgage details, which actions were only possible in person, which by power of attorney, and whether it was possible to prohibit transactions without her presence. Then she called a lawyer she knew, with whom she had once worked under a contract. The lawyer listened and said briefly, "Keep the record. Do not sign the power of attorney under any circumstances. The documents are at home and all the papers are in a safe place. And yes, you can submit an application to Rossregister to prohibit registration actions without personal presence." This is done. Katya thanked him and asked for a list of what was needed, where to go, how much time. In the evening, she returned home, as usual, smiled at Andrei, asked if he had eaten, and put the kettle on. Andrei looked at Katya with the usual confidence of a person who thinks the world revolves around his convenience. Nina Petrovna called almost immediately. Quote, "Katenka, how was your day?" Her voice was sweet. "We'll stop by tomorrow. We need to discuss some things about the house, about the mortgage." Katya answered calmly. "Come on in." After the conversation, Andrei asked, "Mom said you'd agree to help with the documents?" Katya turned to him slowly. "Which ones?" "Well, about the bank, so I can handle things if you're busy." "It's more convenient, isn't it?" Katya looked at him and thought that this look might have wavered before. "Not now." Quote, "I'll think about it," she said. Andrei relaxed. "That's good. Mom is nervous." Quote, "It's hard for her, you know?" Katya nodded silently. At that moment, for the first time, it became clear. Andrei wasn't caught between two fires. Andrei had chosen a side long ago, he just chose quietly, so as not to have to answer. The next day, Katya didn't go to work, took a day off, went to the MFC, and filed an application to prohibit registration actions without her participation. Then she took the original documents to her mother, signed for them in a folder that her mother hid in the way that only school teachers can, securely and without fuss. Returning home, Katya tidied up the kitchen and even baked a pie. Not for beauty or to please. It was just easier to keep a straight face. In the evening, Nina Petrovna and Olga came. They sat at the table, as if for a meeting. Nina Petrovna put the papers in front of Katya. "Here, Katya. A regular power of attorney so that Andrei can handle matters around the house. You understand, you work, you don't have time." Katya took sheets, as if he was reading attentively. Andrei sat next to him and pretended to support his wife, but his eyes were darting around. Quote, "Why a notary?" Katya asked. "That's how it has to be," Nina Petrovna snapped. She immediately softened. Quote, "It's a formality. You'll sign it and that's it." Olga smiled. "Yes, Katyusha, sign it, don't be a bore." Katya put the papers on the table. "No," Nina Petrovna blinked, as if she hadn't heard. "What do you mean?" "No, that's it," Katya said calmly. "I won't sign." Andrei frowned. "Katya, well, that's not scary." Katya looked at him straight on. "Scary, because a power of attorney is the right to dispose of things. And no one except the owner will dispose of this house." Nina Petrovna tensed. Quote, "Owner? What are you talking about? Family." Katya didn't raise her voice. Family is when they talk honestly, and not when they plan how to make someone sign a paper while they're tired. The room went quiet for a second. Olga was the first to try to laugh it off. Quote, "Oh, what are you talking about, a dreamer?" Katya took out her phone, put it on the table, and played a short fragment of the recording. Not the most frightening, just long enough to sound like a power of attorney. "She'll sign, to intimidate." Nina Petrovna turned pale. Andrei sat up abruptly. Quote, "What is this?" He exhaled. "The camera," Katya replied. "They forgot to turn it off." "Your words, your plans." Olga flushed. "This is illegal. Eavesdropping." Katya calmly turned off the recording. "This is a recording from a camera in my house. I didn't set it up, but I heard it and now I know who lives next door." Nina Petrovna tried to pull herself together. "Katya, did you get it all wrong?" "No," Katya said. "I got it right, and now the conversation will not be about right or wrong, but about the fact that you are no longer the boss here." Andrei stood up abruptly. "Are you throwing us out? My mother, my sister?" Katya looked at him calmly, but without her previous softness. "My mother and sister don't live here, they come and give orders. This is ending." Nina Petrovna stood up too, leaning her palm on the table. "You think that because the house is yours, you can." Her voice trembled with anger. "Andrei, tell her." Andrei opened her mouth, but Katya raised her hand. Not harshly, just marking the boundary. "Andrei, listen carefully. Now you can scream, threaten, run to mom, but the facts won't disappear. The house is registered in my name, and I've already filed a restraining order against any activity with it without my personal participation. No power of attorney will help." Nina Petrovna took a sharp breath. "What did you do?" "What you should have done earlier," Katya answered calmly. Olga tried to hit where it hurt. "You're nothing without Andrei. Do you think you can cope alone?" Katya smiled. Not maliciously, but tiredly. "I've coped before and I will continue." Nina Petrovna turned to her son. "Andrei, you're a man. Tell her." Andrei looked at Katya and suddenly said something that confirmed everything definitively. "Katya, come on, sign it nicely. It's really hard for mom. We're a family." Katya slowly stood up. "It would have been nice if you had told me honestly, if you had protected me, if you had stopped them when they were discussing how to intimidate me. You didn't. That means the conversation is over." Katya left the kitchen, returned with a small folder and put it in front of Andrei. Quote, "Here are copies of the documents," she said. "And the divorce petition, which I'll file tomorrow. You can read it. Nina Petrovna and Olga are leaving now. You can go with them or stay overnight, but the house will be locked tomorrow." "I'll change the lock." Nina Petrovna screamed. "How dare you? This is my son." Katya looked at her mother-in-law calmly. "Your son is a grown man, and let him choose for himself who to be, a husband or an obedient boy." Olga snorted. "He won't stay with you. He can live without you." Quote. Katya didn't argue. There was nothing left to argue about. That night, Andrei left, didn't slam the door, didn't shout, just gathered a couple of things and left with his mother and sister, throwing out an offended, "You ruined everything." Katya didn't answer, because neither the walls nor the everyday life were destroyed. Trust was destroyed. In the morning, Katya called a repairman and changed the lock. Then she went to work. An ordinary day, only inside it was empty and quiet, like after a thunderstorm. By lunchtime, the calls began. First, "Andrei, are you serious? Did you change the lock?" Quote, "Yes," Katya said calmly. "You have no right." "I do. This is my house." Quote, Then Nina called. "Petrovna," she screamed into the phone. "You'll regret it. I'll drag you to court. We'll prove it." Katya waited for a pause. "Prove it," she said. "Just keep in mind, I have a recording of the conversation. And a lawyer too." That evening Katya came home and for the first time in a long time, she felt quiet in the house. No one was giving orders, no one was opening the refrigerator like they owned the place, no one was looking. What kind of curtains do you have? A few days later, Andre arrived alone. He stood at the gate, hesitating, and spoke in a different voice, soft, guilty. Katya, let's talk. Mom got carried away. Olya too. They were just Katya listening calmly. They were just planning how to deprive me of the house, Katya finished. No need for excuses. I didn't mean to, Andre said quietly. I thought it was just talk. Katya looked at him and, to her surprise, said without anger, You know, Andre, the problem isn't that your mother is like that. The problem is, you stood there and said nothing. And it will happen again in another form, in another house, in another situation, because you choose comfort. Quote. Andre lowered his eyes. I love you. Katya nodded, as if she'd heard a familiar phrase. Love is when you take responsibility, not when you hide behind your mother's skirt. Andre stood there for another minute, then asked, Are you really going to file for divorce? I will, Katya replied. And not because I want to punish, but because I want to live without the fear that plans are being made behind my back. He left without arguing. And this was, perhaps, the most honest thing Andre had ever done. The story could have ended there, but such stories have tails. They like to drag on for a long time. A week later, Sergei Ivanovich called Katya again. Quote, Katenka, I'm sorry it happened again. His voice was cautious. I just wanted to ask if everything was okay with you. I'm worried. Suddenly, Katya smiled. For the first time in many days, truly. Quote, Thank you. It's okay. You helped me a lot. I'm glad, he exhaled. And also, if you need to explain in court where the recording came from, I'm ready. I'm a simple person, but I have a conscience. Thank you, Katya said, but I hope it won't be necessary. She hung up and realized. The most important thing happened not on the day of the recording and not on the day of the scandal. The most important thing happened at the moment when Katya stopped making excuses and started defending herself. After a while, everything became simpler. Divorce isn't a big deal, but it's not the end of life either. Katya didn't make a big deal out of it. She handled everything quietly. Paperwork, statements, consultations. Andre tried to write occasionally. He'd ask to talk, complain about his mother, or say he understood everything. Katya's responses were brief and even. Understood doesn't change anything in itself, actions do. And there were no actions. Nina Petrovna came to the house a couple of times, rang the gate, and demanded to talk like normal people. Katya didn't open the door, instead stepping out onto the property from the other side of the yard and saying through the fence, This conversation is over. Please leave. Quote. This infuriated her mother-in-law, but over time the visits died down, because where there's no reaction, there's no celebration. One evening, Katya was sitting on the porch. A cool breeze blew, the apple tree quietly rustled its leaves, and the smell of tea wafted from the kitchen. It was a typical, quiet evening, without a single voice in the house. Katya thought about how often women endure. Not because they're weak, but because they hope. Just a little bit more, and everyone will understand, and everything will be fine. Hope is good when there's honesty, but when there's calculation, hope becomes a trap. Katya didn't feel like a winner. There wasn't a feeling like, well, I showed them. There was something else, a calm, heavy, mature, and well-earned. And this calm was worth more than any paperwork, because home isn't walls or a mortgage. Home is a place where you're not afraid to walk through your kitchen, where you don't expect a trick from your closest friends, where boundaries are respected, and where my words don't evoke anger. Katya stood up, went inside, and locked the door again. Not because she was afraid someone would come, but because it was the right thing to do. Then she turned on the light in the hallway. And in this simple gesture there was more freedom than in all her previous attempts to be comfortable. The moral of this story is simple and very down to earth. If the person next to you truly loves you, they protect you. If the person next to you is self-serving, They smile for now, and then start solving problems. And the sooner you notice this, the less you'll have to pick up the pieces. Katya noticed it in time, and so she wasn't left empty-handed, but with the most important thing, herself.